There are hundreds of basic and alternate recipes in Satisfactory 1.0. Some of them are absolutely amazing, whilst others not so much. So I've made it my mission in Satisfactory to compare every single recipe in the game to inform you guys on what the best and worst recipes are. So welcome to the best recipes in Satisfactory 1.0 series. Today's video is all about the Superposition Oscillator, a late game item that's unlocked right here in your hub at Phase 5 or Tier 9, where today we are going to need the quantum encoder itself, the excited photonic matter, dark matter residue, dark matter crystal, and of course, the superposition oscillators themselves. Don't worry too much about the neuroquantum processor or the AI expansion server. We are producing the superposition oscillator in the quantum encoder, a late game at Phase 5 space elevator part. Now, despite there only actually being one recipe, there are thousands of different combinations that you could do to make your superposition oscillators. But as we're about to see, this one's my personal favorite. It's also used to make a couple of extremely important items, such as the AI expansion server and the ballistic warp drive, so these are rather important. You can also make the alien power matrix, but I don't recommend making this. I have a full video where I show the reason as to why. So that's the basics out of the way with. Now let's get straight into our recipe, where we are going to be producing 10 of these per minute. For that, we are going to need 90 alclad aluminium sheets, 10 crystal oscillators, because yes, you have to have an oscillator to make an oscillator, who would have thought, 60 dark matter crystals, and finally 250 excited-photonic matter. And let's just get this out of the way with. Making the excited-photonic matter is the easiest item to make in Satisfactory, and in my opinion it's even easier than making iron ingots, and here's why. All you need to do is grab a converter, just like that, place it down, then make sure that you select excited photonic matter. After you've selected it, you're done. That is it makes it automatically, it really is that simple. The most difficult thing about making the excited photonic matter is actually unlocking the converter itself and also having enough power to produce it. I absolutely love the converter. So after you've made your 250 excited photonic matter, the next thing to address is 60 dark matter crystals. And of course, just because this is the order that I'm showing this recipe in, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make this first, then make the dark matter crystal second. Feel free to do it in whatever order you feel is best. This is just the way I'm presenting today's video. But moving on to our 60 dark matter crystals, we are going to need 150 dark matter residue and 30 time crystals. That is because I'm using the dark matter trap recipe, which I believe to be a really good recipe to use. But again, like every single item you see in today's video, I have got a best recipe video talking about it. Now, the next part of this recipe is actually rather complicated, because we need 150 dark matter residue. And essentially, every single item that's being produced from the quantum encoder produces dark matter residue as a byproduct. That's because whenever you use something like the excited photonic matter, if you use one excited photonic matter, that's going to make one dark matter residue byproduct. If you use 24, that's going to make a 24 dark matter residue byproduct. So because we're using 250 excited photonic matter, we are getting 250 dark matter residue as a byproduct. But let's say you're already producing a dark matter residue from another item. Then all you have to do is just link it back into here, then there you go. You aren't going to need 75 reanimated SAM, and you're not going to need the 300 SAM. But if you're not producing dark matter residue, then you are going to need these two items. Next, we have got our time crystals. There's only one recipe for it. Then to make our diamonds, I'm using pink diamonds. This way I'm saving thousands of coal per minute, which is rather good for logistics, and because of that, we then need an additional 180 quartz crystal. And when you use the pure quartz recipe, this is what you're left with. This is pretty basic. Speaking about basic recipes, we've now got the crystal oscillator, where again, we are going to need more quartz crystals, and again, I'm also using the pure quartz crystal recipe. Then to make our cable, I'm using something called iron wire, which essentially means to make my wire, I'm using iron. I'm doing this because I'm planning a mega iron factory. You could always use the regular recipe if you so wish. And then of course we are using pure iron ingots down there as well, one of my favorite recipes to use and save resources on. Moving on to our reinforced iron plate recipe, I'm using the standard iron plates again with the iron wire, combine both of them together to make our logistics very simple, use our pure iron ingots, and there you go. You only need 118 iron ore and 68 water to make your 25 reinforced iron plates with 0 screws required. And that's the crystal oscillator. And lastly, we have an aluminium recipe. For my regular viewers, you can skip this bit if you want, but if you guys are tuning in for the first time, then welcome. And let me explain the chaos that I've essentially done here. So obviously to make our aluminium sheets, we have to use copper ingots and the aluminium ingots. then the recipe I've chosen here essentially doesn't involve any silica, because I don't like making silica down here, then having to add extra silica up there. I just completely bunned silica out in my process, because I don't like it. I'm then using electrode scrap because I've got tons of petroleum coke. It's very simple to make, but if you don't want to use the electrode recipe, you can always use the regular recipe, which uses coal rather than coke. And to use this coke, we need 9 crude oil, which then gives us 6 polymer resin as a byproduct, which isn't really that great, but you do get 63 water as a byproduct from your scrap. The last thing to talk about is our sloppy alumina solution, where again, I don't want to use any silica, so this is nice and simple to do. So that is our superposition oscillator recipe, but we are not done there just yet, since we need to talk about the resources required, machines required, and total power required, starting with the resources. So we are going to need 476 water, 90 bauxite, 9 crude oil, 12 copper ore, 494 raw quartz, 203 iron ore, 300 SAM, 480 coal, and 250 excidophotonic matter. These are actually a really good amount of resources. Nothing here is extremely high. The one thing I'm slightly concerned about is our raw quartz, because I'm still using the pure quartz recipe, which is great for saving on raw quartz, but we're still using almost 500 per minute. But it is what it is. You've got thousands in your world, so that's not too concerning. Water's completely fine as well. The other slight concern is SAM, but you can always use Somers loops in your constructors when making the reanimated SAM to then save on a bunch of SAM ore, which is great. Everything else here is completely fine. Now moving on to the machines required, where we're going to need one particle accelerator with an average of 1000 megawatts to a maximum of 1500 megawatts worth of power required. In case you guys don't know, the particle accelerator and the converter, as well as a couple other machines in the game like the quantum encoder, have fluctuating powers, which means it isn't just one number like manufacturers or assemblers, it fluctuates. For example, we need 12 converters that will be consuming between 2938 megawatts and 4700 megawatts. This is quite a lot, but we are also going to need 10 manufacturers, 8 assemblers, 12 refineries, 29 constructors, and 4 smelters. Not really consuming that much power other than the manufacturers and refineries, but still, that's nothing in comparison to our converters. But overall, we are going to need 7,442 megawatts worth of power to make our 10 superposition oscillators per minute. Overall, I really do like this recipe. The one thing I will say though, is making the dark matter crystals might be a bit tedious, having to gather all the coal, and this is not necessarily a lot of coal, which is great, but if you're planning to make, let's say, 100 of these, then you're going to need roughly 4,800 coal per minute, so that's quite a lot. Other than that, again, don't forget the dark matter residue trick. You don't want to have dark matter residue building up, because if that builds up, you can't make your superposition oscillators, so do make sure you are using that for something. The crystal oscillator recipe is extremely straightforward. Again, you can always use the regular wire recipe, that's completely fine. I've just chosen this as a personal preference, and I also just quite like it. I do definitely recommend pure quartz crystal though. You just save on a good amount of raw quartz. You do have to use water, but I think it is worth it for this one. And of course, when it comes to aluminium, you don't have to do the petroleum coke recipe. You can always use coal. But I do kind of recommend the sloppy solution and then just the regular aluminium ingots. This way, again, you don't have to make silica, then add extra silica. You just completely get silica out of your aluminium line, which personally, again, I love. Furthermore, don't forget to recycle your water. You don't necessarily have to re-add it back into this recipe, but you do have to use it for something, because again, if your water backs up, you can't make anything. Same with your polymer resin, but luckily that's nice and easy to sink or turn into something like fiber, for example. Regardless, that's the recipe. I have dozens of videos just like this on the channel with loads more to come, so if you enjoyed it, feel free to like, feel free to subscribe. You don't have to, but it supports the channel. But regardless, thank you very much for watching, liking and subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.